Fargo, the new virtual assistant from Wells Fargo, makes banking faster and easier. Like this.
Fargo, what's my checking account routing number?
And this.
Fargo, turn off my debit card.
And this.
Fargo, what did I spend on groceries last month?
And that's just the beginning. Do you, Fargo? You can. In the Wells Fargo mobile app. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/getfargo.
Terms and conditions apply. Your mobile carrier's availability and message and data rates may apply. Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
Hi guys, quick one before we get into the episode. This episode is sponsored by Zencastr, which is the production suite that I've used from the very beginning of this podcast. And if you're interested in starting your own podcast, hang around at the end of the episode for our 30% discount referral code. Thanks.
So our podcast is called Right and Wrong.
Are these your notes?
These
These are your notes about what we're going to say?
Anything.
Nailed it.
It's a short answer.
So how many novels did you not finish?
Oh my god, so many.
It was perfect. What's she talking about? This is nonsense.
Ooh, a spicy question. I love it.
This is it, guys. The big secret to getting published is you have to write a good book. You heard it here first. Hello, and welcome back to the Right and Wrong podcast. Today, I have two guests returning to the show. They both originally came on back when their debut novels were releasing, and a year and a bit later, both gearing up for the launch of their second books. So it's two of my favourite YA superstars, Melissa Welliver and Naomi Gibson. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hi, Jamie. Thanks for having me. And
Well, thanks for coming.
Melba. Awkward.
Let's start with Naomi. She seems more eager anyway. Melissa seems shy. Game Over Girl, your second book, coming out with Chicken House on the 5th of January. What's it all about?
So it's another YA psychological thriller. And I've kept my techie edge. So my last book was about AI. This one is about VR and VR gaming. And it's about a girl with a dark secret. And she plays this VR game and her secret manifests inside her game. It's probably the darkest thing I've written. I hope that everyone likes it. And if you see the twist coming, I will eat my hat.
Oh, I thought Every Line of You was pretty dark, so this is...
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
It's cool that you have like your very much your niche, your kind of area that you sit in with this sort of technological, speculative thriller stuff. Would you ever do anything different from that, or you like that area of exploration?
I do like that area. Like, I think there's like a real relationship between humans and technology, and I love exploring it. I think everything I write has probably got something to do with that. But I have written some more heavily sci-fi stuff, which like I feel pretty drawn to as a genre. The very first book I wrote was fantasy, but we don't talk about that. I've had another idea for a fantasy book, but yeah, I'm probably always drawn to humans and technology and how they relate to each other. So yeah.
Okay. So I think the theme of this episode is very much going to be you've both got your second books coming out. With this new one, was it a very different experience from when you wrote Every Line of You?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think that's a shock. I'm sure it's the same for you, Melba. Yeah, book 2 was hard. Because, like, with Every Line of You, I wrote it and polished it for like 3 years before it got an agent and a publisher, and then you polish it even more. So it's just like kind of more of a labor of love, and then you're like, oh crap, I've got a deadline in a year. I have to like produce this whole other thing and do it all over again. And the way I did this one was I was like, okay, so what am I interested in? And I was like, I do want to write about VR. VR is cool. So I thought about this this girl, and I was like, I'd love to write an unreliable narrator. I mean, my first book, she was kind of unreliable. She was making some interesting choices. But this one, my main character in this book has like a gap in her memory, and she tries to tell herself every night what she thinks happened, and it's like, did that actually happen or not? And she explores it through this VR game. And so, yeah, I came up with this little synopsis that I sent my editor, and I said, this is what I think I want to write about. And she was like, yes, write it now. So I wrote it based on this synopsis. And I am a pantser or discovery writer, and I found writing a book from a synopsis so difficult. And I can see you laughing, Melissa, because I know that like a synopsis is nothing for you. But I found that really, really hard and really, really constrictive. Even though I knew that was the book I wanted to write, I felt like because I had written it in a synopsis and because I had boiled it down to these 2 paragraphs, it was a really clear. I was looking back at it and I was like, oh, actually, that was quite a good pitch. It's got like a really clear beginning, middle, and end. It's got stakes. It's got the main character. It's got mystery, and it's got a hint that there's like some twist going to come. And that's what I need to do that for my next book. So I was looking back at it, but I found it really, really hard to write a book based on a synopsis. It's it's not for me.
Yeah. So you did write the whole thing off that synopsis in the end, right? You didn't sort of put it to one side and then discover it.
No, I did stick to my synopsis because, like I said, it was pretty good in the sense that it told me what was going to happen basically. Yeah. So I was like, okay, so I know what's going to happen. I'm just trying to write towards each point that I can see. But I still found that quite creatively constricting. Constrictive, is that the word? Yeah.
Restrictive?
Restrictive, thank you. That's the word. It's okay, I have an editor now.
So would you, I know you're working on some new stuff now, would you write it from synopsis or would you rather just discover the whole thing?
I think I find discovering the whole thing a lot more freeing and more exciting. And like the other day, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen today. Maybe someone's going to get stabbed, and like someone got stabbed, and I was like writing this like whole scene, and I was really into it. And you can't. I don't know. Maybe you can do that if you plot it, but it's not as much of a surprise. You're not. I don't know. It's just me.
So it's more like an energy thing for you. Like if you know what's going to happen, it's not as exciting for you to write.
Yeah, it's kind of like you want to discover it along with the reader almost. Like when you're reading a book. Yeah. Like you probably know where it's going to end up, but it's like exciting to find out for the first time. I think I want to do that as I write them as well. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the journey as the destination sort of comes to mind.
Yeah, that's cool. That fits.
I'll take it. I've discovered this new phrase just now.
Yeah, I'm discovering a lot today.
But realistically, in terms of like the industry and Chicken House, like you had it was a 2-book deal with Chicken House. Is it realistic for you to say to them, here's the start point and I'm going to discover this book? Or like, does it require that you have to have had the synopsis for them?
So that probably depends on your publisher, really, and what kind of relationship you've got with your editor, I guess. Because I had a 2-book deal and I've now written my 2 books, I have to pitch for another contract. And I can either pitch ideas I haven't written or I can pitch ideas I have written. So it's a bit of a race to write the book first and then pitch it afterwards, Yeah. But I think that's probably how I would prefer to do it, because then I know that I probably enjoy it more. I've written 9 books and I'm writing my 10th now. And I had no idea what my 10th was about before I sat down, really. I just knew that there were some kids living on a military compound. And I was like, let's go find out why they're there. I think that's the way it works for me. So yeah, it's a bit of a game to write the book first that excites you and then pitch it after. And if they like it, then that works out well. But if not, I don't know, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah, I guess it's tricky because if you were someone that wrote from a plan, like it's kind of quicker to come up with pitches than it is to write half a book and then be like, here's one pitch, and then it's like, oh, maybe not that one, so you have to write another sort of like several. I imagine you could probably know at 10,000 words or something if it's going to be a really kind of energizing book for you.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a good point where you can tell, like, yes, I can finish this book. No, I can't finish it. I don't know where it's going to go. And I'd already written, I'm on 20k of the thing I'm writing now. And I think I knew at about 5 that I was like, yeah, I'm going to finish this. But that's not always the case. I've started things and not finished them, Yeah. Sorry, Melissa, that's probably making you twitch.
Not saying anything.
Okay, well, let's move on to Melissa now, because before you get hypes from listening to how Naomi writes the book,
Yes.
Your second book, My Love Life and the Apocalypse, out April 13th.
Yeah.
Hit us with the pitch.
Wow. It is a post-apocalyptic rom-com road trip. And it's being pitched as for fans of Adam Silvera, and it's about an android teen boy and his love story with the last teen girl on Earth, if you like. So it's like last people on Earth. Are they the only ones there? Lots of mystery and definitely like a romance forefront. And it's like a near future type thing set 200 years in the future. Okay,
so not a sequel to The Undying Tower, but...
What do you mean?
maybe it is a sequel. Can you confirm whether they exist in the same universe?
I always want to do that, but everything I write ends up being near future. And if they all exist in the same universe, I would have to change the rules of physics like several times. I always think this. So, I mean, they might exist in the same universe, although no, they're two completely different apocalypses. If you can argue that The Undying Tower has an apocalypse.
But still dystopian, post-apocalyptic. Energy going on there.
Still in that sort of future but not too distant future, end of the world, everything's changed type of vibe going on.
So I know you posted a bit about this online, but what's happening with The Undying Tower, because that's in theory a trilogy.
Yes. So the reason this is my second book is this actually is a standalone, and it went on submission after The Undying Tower had been on submission for about 10 months, and we just did not think it was going to shift. And then it did shift to a small publisher, and that was great. But sadly, Agora's had to close its doors to new publications, which means the second and third book wouldn't come out with them. So they very kindly helped me transition that to self-publish, and now I need to do books 2 and 3 on my own, which means I need more time because it's costly. So I'm sure a lot of people have started looking at self-publishing now, and I won't go into all the details about self-publishing, but it costs money to produce a book, guys. Who knew? It's really expensive. So I'm just raising the funds for that, hoping for next year, fingers massively crossed. But if you sign up to my newsletter on my website, I keep everyone involved with what's going on with that. So yes, this is not the sequel, but don't worry, the trilogy will still happen in some form in the future. I'm just working on it. It's fine.
We'll see. TBC, but it is coming at some point.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to hit you with the same sort of question that I asked Naomi. Fans of the show will know that you are an intense planner. But in terms of, the sort of process, the regime that you approach writing a book, was it very different writing this new one versus The Undying Tower?
Yes, because The Undying Tower was the first, even though it wasn't the book I got a agent with, and I'd written books since, it was the first book I ever completed, and I did pants it. And it was a nightmare to redo. I had spent years working on it and years polishing it, like Naomi was talking about. And I didn't want to do that basically ever again. In the same way, I would argue Naomi technically plots because she's just doing it in her head before writing it down. I technically pants. It's just my pants is my at 20K outline. So that's me like writing the first draft and having fun. That's just me. That is the first draft because it's so long. It's basically a draft. It tells you exactly everything that's happening. And then I go back and add all like the fun sprinkles and icing and stuff as I actually write it into a proper draft. So yeah, this was really, really different, but not different from writing other books I've written in between this one and The Undying Tower, because there were other books in between, a couple of middle grade like time travel ones, which again we will not speak of. We do not speak about it. So it's not that different to how I write now, but it is different to how I wrote The Undying Tower. Yes.
Okay, so you're saying that there's a similarity between discovery writing and planning. You discover your first draft, but it's in the form of bullet points and notes.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So I'm like, I spend all this time, it's my daydreaming phase. I will spend 7-8 months doing that. Like writing stuff on bits of notes, sticking them up, do it, when people say, oh, I use notes to move around the scenes. I'm doing that technically. It's just, it's all part of my planning. There's no prose going on. There's no like nice sentences. And then once all that's down, it's really, really fun for me to then go in and fill in the gaps because it feels like I'm writing fan fiction for myself. That's how I always describe it. Really fun. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about this really fun scene that I thought of 3 months ago. I'm now going to like write down this really like epic love scene or something. And I love doing it.
Okay. That's cool because the big difference really does seem it's in the energy with which you write. So
Yeah.
Naomi obviously gets amped up by sort of figuring out as she's writing, like, oh, what's the choice the character's going to make here? Doesn't know in advance necessarily. Whereas you like writing your own fan fiction.
Yeah. I just hate editing, if I'm being totally honest. So I just want to write like a really clear like first draft. So I have like a 0 draft where I plot basically. And then I have a first draft, which of course is perfect because I have written it. So no, it's not bad.
Yeah, right. But then that's claiming that your plan isn't your first draft.
Yeah.
But
So I'd always call it a 0 draft anyway. I don't know if Naomi uses the terminology 0 draft, but I know a lot of people use 0 draft, which is where they are basically just discovering. And it's not even like first draft kind of thing. I saw that Kezia Lupo, who's both of mine and Naomi's editor at Chicken House, she retweeted something the other day about somebody had said, oh, I found out from my friends who pants that they throw away 90% of their word count from the first draft, which did feel like quite spicy.
As a pantser,
and she said,
that's not the case for me.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty spicy. I feel like that's quite
90%. That's a lot.
It does feel like a lot.
Yeah.
That's
got to be 50,000 words around if you're writing YA adult.
That's horrifying. I can't think about that right now. I'm drafting.
I'm trying to finish a book right now, guys. Jeez.
Yeah, exactly.
well, that's to go.
It's not the pep talk I need.
Okay, let's get into the specifics then, because you're both very different in terms of kind of the way you approach it. Naomi, have you ever tried, other than like the synopsis, which I would say is an light planning at best, have you ever tried to actually like map out or plan a novel?
I have. I had a spreadsheet and everything, and I knew what was going to happen in each chapter, and I wrote the plan. And did I write the book? No, I did not, because I knew what was going to happen. It was boring. I didn't want to write it. So, yeah, I have a whole plan for a book I've never written because, well, what's the point? I don't know.
Hello, Saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
When do you... one of the big things that I hear about discovery writing or gardening writing, I think George R.R. Martin calls it, and Brandon Sanderson talks about the two different disciplines of it, is that you sometimes are surprised by the choices your characters make. I know that makes authors sound slightly insane, but do you ever find that, Naomi, when you're writing a chapter as a like kind of pure discovery writer, that you think something's going to end a certain way, but then as you're writing it, you say, no, actually that character wouldn't do that. This is the choice they would make.
Yes, there's something I already know I need to go back and rewrite in the book that I'm writing. Because it's like, oh, they wouldn't do that. But so I realised, so for the thing that I'm writing at the moment, for example, I realised that actually my two characters want very different things, and it struck me like 2 days ago. I was like, well, I should probably split them up then, because they're neither of them going to follow the other, so let's split them up. So this is horrifying, isn't it, Mella? I can see you like twitching.
To continue. It's fine.
So I'm at the point now where like one of my characters has left the other whilst they're asleep, and it's like they're just roaming around on a coach trying to find their way to somewhere they don't know how to get to, and like that surprised me because but then it also makes sense. I wasn't expecting it, but then because I thought, it's going to be like this sort of romance thing where they stay together and they're always together and blah blah blah, but it makes sense that the two people would split up if they don't want the same thing. And so you just got to follow it, and if it doesn't work out, rewrite it later. I don't know.
Just rewrite it later.
Yeah, that's right. That's what draft 2 is for, you know.
But Melissa, is that ever something that you like have to deal with when you've mapped everything out sort of to the within 100 words or so?
Mm-hmm.
Do you iron that out before you even get to like draft 1? where you've kind of gone through it so many times that you say, oh no, this isn't in character for this person to make that decision?
Yeah, that never happens to me, ever. Never happens. I'm a control freak. I'm one of those people that if I'm measuring out pasta for my dinner and like one piece of pasta goes over and it goes like 3 grams over, I have to take out the pasta. And if it goes under, snap the pasta. So it's exactly like 100 grams. That is the sort of person I am. I'm in control of everything all the time. I'm a complete weirdo. So yeah, I'm a control freak. So I have to control enthusiast, I prefer. So everyone does exactly what I say all the time. It's great. When I was younger, I wanted to be a film director, and it's because I could just tell everyone what to do all the time and be in control of the whole thing. And then found out that if you write a book, you can have whichever actors you want and whatever budget you want and still be in control. And that was like, this is the dream. Why would I do this any other way? So no, I'm in control the whole time. And also my characters lead. For me, I write out a what if scenario when I'm very, very starting, and then write out what my character wants and what my character needs. And then every single plot point is designed specifically by the character want or need. So they're always doing exactly what I know they would do, because I don't do any other characterization. I don't know what they look like. I don't know like their favorite color or anything like that. I just do that. And then that leads the entire plot. So the plot is character driven the whole time. So therefore the plot never falters away from me because the plot is decided by the characters I've designed. It is my design. Perfection.
So when you actually come to write it, like it is very like, you know exactly what's going to happen when it's going to happen, and you are almost sort of filling in the blanks at a certain point.
Yeah. So I always sit on it a bit between plotting it and then writing it. And then what's quite nice is I can just open it and it will say like, write 2,100 words of a car chase between these two characters, and it has to end at this point. So I'm like, awesome. So to me, it's like a little quiz, and I make my own fun and my own games, like all good, only children, and I just fill it all out, and it's really fun. And then I give myself a little tick at the end, which is nice. I tick it off my list, get a little tick, maybe a gold star if I remember to buy stickers. Yeah, it's good. It's fine.
Well, it's nice that you find your own challenges and like check marks for that.
I create challenges for myself because I plan it out so well. There would be no challenges otherwise. So,
do you find twists like you plan the twist out, or does the twist just happen for you? You do, yeah. Okay.
Nope, it's planned out. But I suppose it technically happens when I'm planning it. So I might spend 3 or 4 months planning a twist. Then once I've got it, I nail it. Like, right, it is going there. It's going to be in chapter 23. That is when the twist happens. And I need to make sure I lead up to that. And that helps me fill in middle bits, like saggy middles. Whereas like it's like 25,000 words of mine is like fun and games section of like a Save the Cat 3 art structure, which is difficult if you don't know exactly when you're very early on. So then as soon as I nail that twist down, but it will take me 3 or 4 months to think of that twist. And I'll be thinking of everything else around it. And I'm a bit of a nightmare in those few months when I'm thinking about that. So not very like sociable, very good. I would think of stuff when I'm out and just leave. Because I'm like, well, I've just thought the thing I wanted, so I'm going to leave now because I don't need to be social anymore. I got what I needed from these people. I am an android, so it's fine. So I just plan it all out. But yeah, so I do technically think about it for a really long time. I just don't write it and then be thinking about it as I'm like coming up to it and then think of it and write the twist. I prefer to have it all in my head in advance over several months of thinking.
It doesn't become prose until it's been like drilled down to like the exact thing that's going to be everything in its right place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. So I guess, in many ways, you're right when you say it's like it's more like an approach to doing it, but like you pants when you're planning.
Yeah, that's when the fun is, and then I control the fun. You've got to control the fun.
Like Monica.
You're having fun wrong.
Doing it wrong.
You're the Monica of writing.
Yeah.
And then conversely, it's like I always think of pantsing discovery writing as you are still planning. It's just that your plan is you just write it out in prose as your first draft. Yeah,
I think so.
So yeah, I mean, it's really about the order in which you do things and the way that you like to kind of pace stuff, and also how much you dislike or like editing.
Yeah, I hate editing. So,
do you think?
See, I think editing. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, go ahead.
I think editing for me, I prefer, because that's when I know that I'll smooth out all the weird crap that I put in the first round.
See, I have that in first draft. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm going to smooth this out because I'm now going to write it all out and develop the relationships and stuff. So it's like I feel like I'm not writing first draft when I'm writing first draft.
So you did pants Undying Tower, and it sounds like it scarred you for life.
Yeah.
But it was also the first thing you'd ever written. So since then, as a writer, just through like practice and learning, you know, you'll be much more accomplished at the craft. Do you think, I know you won't because it horrifies you, but do you think if you ever did discover some writing again, that it would actually be a lot better and much more fluid than when you first did Undying Tower?
I just find it, I don't know. I just find it takes me too long, and I know I'll keep going over stuff. So I'm not even sure if I'd be able to do it. I'm not even sure if I'd be able to.
Just having a panic attack.
I know. Having a meltdown, even thinking about it. I just don't think I could do it. I think because I like to write really, really fast, right? So I like to have a really like particular voice. I hate saying strong voice, because it sounds like I'm so good at writing. I have a really strong voice. But I like to like pick a strong voice, and then when I'm in that voice, I really cannot read or watch TV or anything else because it'll take me out of it. So then I need to write as quickly as possible. And the way to not get stuck and sit down at my computer and be like, oh God, I don't know what's coming next. Actually, I can't write in this half hour I've carved out for myself, is that I do know what's going to happen next because it's all plotted out. So I just don't think I could do it, or it would take me years and years to do. I really don't. I think I've now become so far the other way, I wouldn't be very good at discovery writing.
That's really funny.
I know what you mean though, because as someone who sits, I think I sit sort of, if it's a spectrum with those two at either end, I sit actually kind of in the middle, but I think I lean towards discovery. So I map out the story, and I know like all of the major points, where it starts, where it ends, but then I'm discovering bits in between. And I do often, I don't know if you get this as well, Naomi, but sometimes you'll go to write, and because you're discovering it, you're like, actually, I don't know what I'm writing in this bit. And then it's really hard to like get that going sometimes.
If that happens to me, and it has happened, I'm not going to sit here and pretend. No, pantsing is the dream. If that happens to me, that is at the point I get the Save the Cat out and have a look and start thinking about what beat do I need to hit. And if I can just think about what naturally in a story, what kind of beat would come after what I've already written, then I don't need to really know what it is. I can just work towards it. And then you go back and you edit out those bits that it took you to get to that beat. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's about finding ways to sort of get going again, right? Because I don't know if you guys find this, but whenever you have like a pause or something like that, it's just about sort of soldiering on. And then I find that I get it back quite quickly. Once I start writing, it's like, oh, this is what I was supposed to be doing all along.
Yeah. And sometimes as well, if I'm really unsure what to do next, I will bring in a character, a background character, and often that background character will want something completely different to my main character, and you just have this little scene where that background character messes with them for a little bit and pushes your main character to do something, and that is generally what gets me back on track.
That works so well as well. I was talking about this with previously on the podcast as well, when you told me about that technique that you do. Just bring in a side character to mess with the main character. Those are the problems.
Because if you've got your side characters, like your side cast figured out, like early on in the book or whatever, you just bring one of them in again, because what do they want? You know, they're characters too, they all want stuff too, so what do they want? It's probably something that doesn't align with what your main character wants, and so you just mash them together and it gets you back on track. It
works. I like it. It's also like a fun, it's not something that I've only heard it from you, but I think it really does work, and it's a good technique for anyone listening if they're in that situation and they want to try and spice up their writing, especially in the sludgy, gooey middle bit.
For sure.
And since the theme of this episode seems to be you guys on your second books and sort of how your writing has evolved since your debuts, let's start with Melissa. What is something that you wish you now know that you wish you'd known when you were first writing Undying Tower?
Definitely how to plot, but also
Oh, you like plotting? Oh, I didn't know this.
love plotting. How did you know? A way to talk more about my one true love. Yes, I think I wish I had known how long things take, and I'm talking about both writing and, but to be honest, plotting and pantsing. So as I say, I take a long time to plot as it is, and like publishing generally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think just how long everything takes. Everything takes so much longer than you think it will. Even just selling a book, even if you write the best book in the world and sent it out tomorrow, it would be weeks before you got an agent. Even if you sold it really fast, it would be several days before you got a publisher. And even then, it would be at least a year until it came out.
Yeah.
And then there's actually getting the thing written, and then knowing, obviously, that once you've got something written, it's like Naomi was saying about Every Line of You, and it taking a couple of years to like get exactly right and find an agent and blah blah blah. And in between that, you're like refining. And then of course you're in the cycle of, well, you want something coming out the following year, or even if it's the following 2 years.
Yeah.
You're still on that treadmill, and you're having to do, like, at the minute, because it's 7 months until the My Love Life comes out. We're looking at, doing all this promo stuff, and I'm still doing copy edits for that, but I'm still having to pitch something else and think about maybe writing a sample of something else. So it's enjoying the time before you're on the treadmill, and then realizing how slow some bits are, but how fast other bits are when you have a load on your plate. So your time, it's also a time.
Yeah.
I never have enough time.
Because you always need to be thinking, and the publishers will always have you thinking about the next book.
Yeah, for sure.
They're trying to get them out as quick as possible. It's funny that you just call it My Love Life. Sounds like you're releasing memoirs or something.
What did I just say about saving time, Jenny? What did I just say about saving time? It's a very long title.
My Love Life comes out soon. You can read all about it. So same question to you, Naomi. What's something that you wish you'd known back when you were writing Every Line of You?
So I am somebody who, funnily enough, likes to be in control of things, which is quite amusing, being a discovery writer.
Do you?
So when it came to publishing, I was like, because there's a lot you can't control. You can't control people buying it. You can't control word of mouth. You can't control sales, things like that. So I looked very heavily at what I could control, and I went headfirst into social media and things like that. And I exhausted myself, actually. I was really, really pushing. And like, people talk about I was just screaming into the void, like, buy my book, just because it's like, you feel like you're doing something, you feel like you're helping yourself out, you feel like you're trying to get your name out there, and you just like, you're trying to get people interested. But actually, when you look at like successful people who draw a crowd, they're not standing on a soapbox trying to flog you something. They've probably got like content that gives back, as opposed to trying to sell something. So that's probably what I've learned, is just more that you can shout yourself blue in the face on social media, but it will not make sales come, and you will probably exhaust yourself doing it. And just as a control freak, it's hard to let go of that, and hard to realize that. And this is probably very much a do as I say, not do as I do, because I've got a book coming out soon. But just try and let go of some things, because you'll enjoy the ride a lot more.
Yeah.
And people talk about it as being a roller coaster, and that a lot of other authors were telling that they had a massive slump after their book came out, and like, you're on this massive high, and then you're on this major low, because like, maybe you haven't got reviews, maybe your figures aren't great, things like that. And it's just, it can be really like a dark time after your book comes out, actually. And what I've learned was that just always have something to look forward to, like go to a bookshop and sign something once a month, or just meet up with other writers and try and just get your head out of, I don't know, probably not a good thing to meet up with other writers trying to get your head out of writing, but like just like generally spend time with people who get it, who know what you're going through, and just fall back on your community that you've hopefully made whilst you're on your journey. So
Yeah, so I guess it's more about finding meaningful ways to kind of be part of the community, as opposed to just shouting into the void. Involve yourself in different ways, doing because you both do lots of panels and things like that. And Melissa, you're obviously working with Right Mentor, and it's those kinds of extra things where it's not just you shouting at stuff, it's you also giving back a bit, helping out, sharing your experience, like on this podcast. What a segue. Well, thanks so much, guys. It's always great having you both on. And I'm really looking forward to both of your new books next year.
Woo!
Hooray. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. And for anyone listening, you can check out both Melissa and Naomi's books, The Undying Tower and Every Line of You, right now. You can pre-order Game Over Girl and My Love Life and the Apocalypse. And to make sure that you don't miss out on any of their latest news or Naomi's shouting into the void, you can follow Naomi on all socials at Naomi G Writes. You can follow Melissa on most socials at Melliver, but on TikTok at Melissa Welliver. And to make sure you don't miss an episode of this podcast, follow us on Twitter at Right and Wrong UK or on Instagram at Right and Wrong Podcast. Thanks again to both of you for coming on. It's been really fun chatting, and thanks to everyone listening. We'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks for hanging around until the end. If you're interested in starting your own podcast but aren't really sure what that looks like, I can't recommend Zencastr enough. It's so simple to host, record, and download your podcast with, and it even has a built-in transcription AI. It functions entirely in the internet browser, which means all your guests have to do is click on a link and they'll be brought into the conversation. If you click on the link in the description, you'll get 30% off the first 3 months. All you have to do is click on the link in the description. Thanks again for supporting the show, and we'll see you in the next episode.